Hi there, fellow carvers. Started working on the hand from my piece that I've been working on here, and the wood was behaving very nicely, so I thought I'd do some carving. Not really any special techniques or tools. I'll be using mostly my 3F8. It's a pretty delicate fishtail gouge. Probably my favorite tool. So let me just move some wood. I've drawn in some knuckles here, so I'll be generally lowering the hand. I've got a ways to go on this. It's too high off of the base, so I've got at least half an inch, maybe more, that I can take this down, which is good because I've never really done a hand before, and this is a good exercise. The material, like I say, has been behaving very nicely here. It's almost buttery the way it comes off. And with this piece, the contours are such that I can actually use the gouge inverted, which is nice. It gives me a little better contour, closer to what I want to do. I can still remove material efficiently like this, you know, with the gouge in its normal position. I just have to take off less and do more strokes. So efficiency-wise, I think the inverted gouge is a little faster, gives me a better contour. I could even go with probably a stronger gouge rather than a 3F. I could probably go. Let me try my 7F. This is a more pronounced fishtail. It's still a fairly delicate gouge compared to some of the bigger ones, but and it's larger. You know, it's a 16, whereas the other one is an 8. And the contour on this is probably even better as far as it mimicking the roundness of the fingers. So kind of the direction that I'm heading is to start to remove material up in this area so that I can start to build up some knuckles, that bump there. They say that one of the most difficult things for an artist to draw is the hand. You know, partly probably because it's so complex, but also because we're so familiar with it. We see them constantly. And I don't think that that applies to carving. You know, maybe because it's a three-dimensional medium and we're able to actually have the physical thing that it, you know, was not difficult. I'm pleased with both of these hands. I'd do the thumbs a little differently next time. I would want them splayed out a little more. I'm still working that. I'm taking down this area and preserving this so that the thumb gets farther and farther from the fingers, because it, you know, this is more realistic rather than this. Hopefully you can see that. It's getting a little janky there because I'm going uphill. Doesn't want to cooperate in that direction either. I could actually feel that when I push the gouge in there. So I'm not sure how to work around these. This seems like it's going to work. Just define the knuckle mound. And then remove the material around it so that what I leave is what's defining the mound. Okay, good. That's as far as I want to go in that way. The other tool that I found real useful here is the V tool. This is a 12/6 V-tool. And what happens with this, hopefully I'll be able to do it here, it's kind of steep, I'm running into the shoulder, is come the other direction. Oh. Yeah, that's good. I'm continuing to lower this back area so that we have more of a look like this. If the back of the hand tends to slant down when you've got this kind of a grip. So let's go back to the 3F, the smaller gouge. Getting started in these areas is the difficult thing. Once I have a contour or a groove established, it goes a lot smoother. And as far as which tool works best, I usually start with this one here. Like I say, it's kind of my favorite. And then experiment with other tools. I try not to switch tools constantly, because that becomes a habit. Try to stick with the same tool as long as I can if I'm getting results. And I think one of the nice things about working with the same tools over a longer period of time is that you start to get an intuitive feel for what would work better in this situation. What I've been doing with this back slant of the back of the hand, I'll show you that. I've been using the Vayner. This is a fairly large Vayner. It's an 11/7. So it's a good size Vayner. I like the Vayners because of these high sides, which I'll show you my 8. The 8 is actually a sweep gouge. It's an 810. It's actually a sweep gouge, and what that means is that you can press it and have a complete circle. It will form a circle if you go around in a circle and pick up where the last indent is off. And a Vayner isn't like that at all. A Vayner is a U-shaped tool. One of the things I really like about that, let me demonstrate this. As far as not having to switch tools, one of the things that the Vayner lets me do is, okay, I've made a U-shaped groove here, which leaves a bump there. I don't even have to switch tools. I just rotate the Vayner slightly, and I'm actually using the flat side of the tool to continue a more natural contour up the arm here. It's kind of a tight space to work in, so it's a little bit more choppy than I like. You know, I always prefer a nice smooth action with the tool. That's one of the other things with the Vayner is because of its shape, you can work it into a valley that it'll then get stuck in. So I rotate it left and right to widen the valley. It doesn't really get stuck, it just becomes less effective. It can't dig down. And one of the other, I've probably moved myself back and down enough for the moment to continue working around the knuckles. That's kind of why I picked up the Vayner, was to give myself more room to work in there. And at this point I might actually have gone with a power tool, but this is another Vayner. And this is one of the things that I've found with these is that This one's, I guess, one step smaller. This is a 5, and the one that I was using is a 7. I'm not sure, there's probably a 6. I'm not sure if there is or not. I'll have to look at that. But this contour fits inside this contour very nicely. So when I've created a channel with the 7, I can then go to the 5, and it's a pretty natural transition as far as it going deeper and thinner. So it continues to excavate down from the initial channel that I've made with the 7. And it's pretty natural. And like I say, with these, I can just rotate it sideways slightly to expand the sides of the channel of the groove. Works pretty nice. And then I'll also go with my smallest veiner. I see I'm doing the tool switching thing, but that's all right. This is the smallest one that I have. This is a 3. So I guess files or fields designation for the veiner is 11, and the size is 3. So this is a pretty small one. I've had to work this quite a bit because the angle here was much too steep, so I really took a lot off of this shoulder here on an ongoing basis, because it wouldn't approach the wood in a useful way. I was always having to be too steep to get over that shoulder, so I've taken that back quite a bit. And I didn't have to mess with the edge. I was able to just remove that shoulder and buff it up, and it worked fine. So I didn't have all the headache of getting into the shaping of the edge, which is always a really time-consuming thing. But the reason I picked this up is I wanted to see how well it would work with this little area that I've been struggling with. Yeah, that looks better. And this is another situation where it's going to be beneficial for me to be able to turn the tool and rock the tool and use the straight edges of the U, the uprights of the U, to define the knuckle mound that I'm trying to create here. And what I'll probably do is continue to have a lot of material to work with there. I don't want it spread out too much, but I'll continue to take the fingers down, and I'll leave this as a cylinder. I'll continue to work down. I'll leave this pretty much the outline there, and then the last thing I'll do is come in and round off the top of the cylinder so that it has the knuckle shape that I'm going for. And the reason I do that is it gives me a lot more options if I leave the material on there and come back after it later. Because, it's a process of discovery as far as what's going to, in the carving, what's going to mimic the reality the best. It's not always the same shape as my knuckle. A lot of times to communicate that in the wood is I have to be a little different than the reality. I've gone to the wood carving roundup in Tampa several years in a row, and the instructor there, his name is Chris. I can't quite remember his last name. I'll think of it later though. The way that he would approach eyes is completely counterintuitive to what I would, if I was just going by the seat of my pants. It's completely different than the way he would tell me to do it. And he had a time-tested, proven method that works. So not always what the approach is not always what I think it would be. And you can see, even though I'm taking off small pieces of this wood, that it's behaving very nicely. It's not, I'm not getting any against the grain kind of roughage stuff, and it's not chipping. It's just nice and creamy, buttery. Not sure why that is, if it's because it's this is probably the area, this is the longest, farthest away from the center of the wood, so that may have something to do with it. I'm not sure. And as I create this indent in the finger, I'll come back. Let's come back with the big one that has a nice contour, and I can take that down. Ooh, don't want to pop it out of there. I want to preserve that cylinder. It's almost a stop cut, but it won't stop if I don't restrain it. It'll punch into that cylinder, and I'll cause myself some work, because I'll have to take the knuckle down farther, have to take that cylinder down farther to get the proper elevation that I want. And what I'm doing now is I'm building up that chippage, because I'll go back with the small veiner and clear that out, but because I have this tool in my hand, I want to make it as efficient as possible. And when I get to the point where I can't see it anymore, then I'll come back with the veiner and clear that out. And all of this, of course, is basic carving. Like I say, I'm not necessarily new to carving, but I've you know, started and stopped many times, so I'm still pretty much a beginner. It's getting to be a nice nice high cylinder there. Alright, so we're getting into some tedious work. Let me turn off one of these lights so that we can see maybe a little better how high it is. This light is hot, so I have to be careful. So hopefully you can get an idea of the elevation here. I'm getting to the point where I'm tempted to take it down. And I probably will once I've removed and smoothed some material. I don't want to eliminate these deep grooves, which is fine. I'll probably go back in with the larger veiner again and give myself some more room to work. But let me spend some time on this. You know, I've kind of covered what I can for now here. I'll spend some time on this, and this one I'm going to have to relieve it quite a bit to start to build up this knuckle. For some reason there was a gouge there. You know, I maybe wasn't even thinking that I was going to add knuckles, but the more I look at my hand, the more I can see that it needs that. Fortunately, I've got a long way down I can go, like I said, and I'll be able to take these grooves down and leave the knuckle. So let me pause it here and come back for the second half. Sorry about that, just had a power glitch. Well, it does not like this direction, that's for sure. That's got to be against the grain. It's not always easy to keep track of direction of grain. I'm probably going cross grain here. But because I've got so many change in elevation, there's so many contours here, I don't always know I'm going against the grain until I start feeling it fight the tool. This is about as much cross as it's going to let me get. Yep, it's not like in that direction. So I may use power on the front side of the knuckle, at least enough to get it down where I want it. And then I'll come back with the gouge and finish it off, possibly in the back direction. Possibly a, let's take a look at this one. This is actually a straight 112 chisel that, because I've got 1, 2, 3 profiles that are very similar. I've got a fishtail that's very similar. So I decided to heat it up and put a bend in it to see if it would be useful in other situations. And this might be one of those that'll enable me to carve down from the back. Yeah. Boy, I can feel it fighting me. I guess this is another way that we're lucky compared to artists that draw or paint and even build things with clay, because we can feel stuff. We can feel it when the gouge is not wanting to fight. Of course, they don't care about that. All they're using is a pencil and paper. But I think probably every carver loves the wood. I know I do.